Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Heads Up Play, episode number 5. Thank you for joining us. Here we are. Got a number of things to talk about on this Sunday evening, Monday morning possibly, when you're listening to it. That's when we'll come out with it. Busy weekend in sports. World Series going on. NBA started up. Of course, a lot of college football to talk about. And maybe a little bit more. As you might see, we are a man down this episode. J-Dub, Mr. John Wesley Woodham, could not join us tonight, but that's all right. He had some plans that he had to attend to. That is perfectly fine. It happens. And if you're one of our hardcore listeners, I know some of y'all out there just waiting for the new Heads Up Play every Monday and Thursday.
Craving it. You crave it. You shake. You shake at the core.
You probably loaded up your computer Friday at noon saying, where's the new Heads Up Play? Where is it? Well, unfortunately...
Shaking it like an alcoholic on penny pitcher night.
You just... Withdrawals. You're waiting for it. Well, you pulled up your computer, pulled up the Apple Podcasts, and it wasn't there. Well, we recorded a whole episode, and about halfway through it, the audio started messing up. It was just a total mess. We could not record the thing. We could have re-recorded it, but it would have taken forever to edit it. I was gone on Saturday at a game, which we will talk about here soon. So it was a missing episode. That would have been episode number 5. This would be episode 6, but this now is episode number 5. But we're early in our stages here at Heads Up Play. We're still a little seedling. We're a little seedling. We haven't even sprouted out of the ground yet. So we can make these little mistakes right now.
You're right. Well, I don't know if people have heard this, but Michael Jordan was cut from his 9th grade year of basketball. If you never knew that.
That's right. And what did he develop into?
The 2nd greatest basketball player of all time.
2nd greatest? I mean, number 1, is the dude from White Men Can't Jump, right? Like
Woody Harrelson.
The new one.
Oh yeah, Jack Harlow? Yeah, he's a baller and a rapper. Oh yeah, totally. He's
a two-sport athlete.
They say Microsoft started in a garage.
Yeah. Bill Gates, that's what I love. That's a conversation I love to have with people. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, they all dropped out of Harvard and look where they're at. And then you're like, oh, well, it was Harvard. So, well, anyways, guys, we got a lot to get into.
Yes.
Cowboy, let's start off by talking a little bit about baseball. There's not much left we can talk about baseball as we are now in the World Series. It is official. D-backs, Rangers. D-backs representing the National League, Rangers representing the American League. What's your take on how things have gone so far?
So, y'all couldn't see our episode, of course, on Friday when we made our predictions. My predictions was Rangers in 5. I'm still upholding that prediction. Right now, when you're listening to this, it's 1-1. I was a little shocked yesterday by the Rangers' performance, giving up 16 hits. I like the Diamondbacks. I'm not trying to sound like a hater. Only reason why I'm pulling for the Rangers, I've been on them the whole playoff. It's 1-1. First game, I'm telling you, I think Adolis Garcia is possibly having one of the greatest playoff runs of all time. It's incredible. I'm trying to, and I've been asking myself, and I want to ask on the podcast, do you think it's possible he's going to catch Randy from the Tampa Bay Rays, his record of 10 home runs in the playoffs? Do you think he'll tie it? He has 8.
At the pace he's going, yeah, I can definitely see it. He's already got 1. So, 1 in the World Series here. So,
World Series, yeah.
I can definitely see it. The story of Game 1 really was the Diamondbacks up until there was 2 outs left in the bottom of the 9th. And, of course, the man, a Braves killer. I'm so glad that he's in the American League now.
Yeah.
Corey M.F. Seager does the dang thing.
He's that dude. The guard dog.
Yeah, my freaking dog. He's ridiculous. Yeah, Corey Seager does the dang thing. First pitch off of Paul Sewald just destroys it. It's a total new ball game. They take it to extra innings, bottom of the 11th, and that man, who else in this postseason? Adolis Garcia hits a walk-off. And it's like, that's a gut punch loss for the Diamondbacks. And they come in, you're with the Rangers. I've been on the D-backs all season long.
Yeah, you have.
And the Diamondbacks punch him in the mouth all game long. They didn't really give Jordan Montgomery and the Rangers really any chance last night. And so now the series is even going back to Arizona. And John Rivers, I do believe that, now keep in mind, D-backs have only been around since 1998, same as the Rays. They did have one World Series. That was the only World Series they went to. They won it in 2001. Beat the Yankees.
Yep.
The 9-11 Yankees. They were supposed to win it all. Beat them, totally upset them. South Alabama legend Luis Gonzalez hits a walk-off.
Walked them off. Yep.
I believe the Diamondbacks. It's a low sample size. Have never lost a World Series game at Chase Field.
It's going to be interesting. I'm very interested. Tomorrow night's game is Fat versus Scherzer. So we'll see how that goes. Scherzer not having too hot of a start in the playoff. I mean, with a 9.45 ERA, Fat with a 2.70 ERA. But, who knows? Yeah, Scherzer can turn it. It's weird. Scherzer in the division, in the wild card, the championship series, he's not good. But when it comes to World Series, you saw it with the Tigers. You saw it with the Nationals. He's pretty good. It's weird. He can turn on the World Series playoff series, not any other series. The World Series playoff series.
Yeah, he really can. It's weird in the playoffs. He's either on it or he's just not. 2021, the Braves kind of lit him up. But you look back at that series, the Nationals, he was on it. So we'll see how it goes. I thought the pitching matchup kind of leaned towards the Rangers a little bit, but now I'm kind of thinking with how good Fott is performing, it might be pretty even. I think the Diamondbacks have at least a better performing bullpen right now. But the thing with the Rangers is if that offense gets going, I mean, it's hard to slow them down. But, I mean, I think this is a more evenly matched matchup than a lot of us were thinking.
I agree. Now, I'll give you a fun fact. Who was the first player to hit a home run at Region Field for the Birmingham Barons, local team for us? Marcus Semien.
Really?
He played for the Barons, yes. He hit the first
White
home
Sox
run
organization?
At Regions Field for the Birmingham Barons.
How about that? Fun fact. And, man we mentioned earlier, White Sox legend Michael Jordan. He played for the Barons.
I'm just saying.
He brought a lot of money in that city.
If he wanted to play, he would have played. He could have made the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right.
And we can get into conspiracy theories about sports, but I got a crazy conspiracy theory about Michael Jordan.
Okay.
A crazy one. He used to be a big gambler. I don't know if you ever watched the show The Last Dance.
Yep.
Kind of got into that a little bit. I've kind of always believed that he was suspended for 2 years. They didn't want to make it public, though, with him being the face of the NBA. So the owner of the Bulls was also the owner of the White Sox.
Mm-hmm. Let him do something. Let him live out his dad's dream while he's suspended.
Yeah, but say it was a good story instead of saying, hey, he got caught gambling.
I see.
He's the face of the NBA.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. It's perfect timing. It was at the right time, kind of thing.
Well, and to lead into, since we're talking a little bit about the NBA here.
NBA, yep.
NBA has started up. There's been, I think most teams have played at least 2 or 3 games now. We talked about it on our last episode, but of course, unreleased. Let's make real quick early NBA finals predictions. Who do you have in the finals? Who do you have making it, and who do you have winning it?
Well, I have coming out of the East. I like the moves they made this offseason, and I'm talking about the Boston Celtics. I love the moves they got. You got Point. You got probably going to have Drew shooting guard. You have Jalen Small forward, you have, or really, to be honest, you got Derek White at point. You got shooting guard, Drew Holiday. Small forward, Jalen Brown. Power forward, you got Tatum. Then soon you got the unicorn himself, Porzingis. That's a good lineup. And then out of the West, I think they're going to go back again. I'm looking at the stats for him right now. He's just unbelievable. I got the Denver Nuggets. Nikolai Jokic. I don't know if you're aware. He is probably one of the most unathletic players in the world. But the man had 28 points and 14 rebounds tonight.
He's pretty crazy.
He's just good at reading where the ball is going to come off the rim, kind of thing. He knows where to go. Usually he averages a triple-double. The opening night, I think he had 20, 11, 13 assists. Like, he's just unbelievable. So I got the Celtics and the Nuggets. And I'm going to go with the Irish. Give me the Boston Celtics, the little leprechaun.
Okay. I like that. I also look at the Celtics. I think a lot of people are picking them to win the Eastern Conference as well. I mean, when you look at the guys that they have that they picked up, when you got Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, and Porzingis, they seem the most set up to make a good run in the finals, I think. But I also look in the Western Conference, and I look at the Phoenix Suns. They didn't get it done a couple years ago, and they got a really good team: Durant, Booker, Bradley Beal. I think it'll come down to those two teams. I think a lot of people are picking both of those teams to make it to the finals. I originally thought that the Suns would win that, but I don't know. Like I just said, I think the Celtics are primed to make a big run in the playoffs with the moves.
And I like the Suns. I've always said the issue. You'll watch. Usually, beside in the last 20, 30 years, really, but they want to talk about big threes. Besides the Celtics, besides the Heat, besides some of that Cavs one year, a lot of these big threes don't happen because they don't play together. They get injured.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, you had the Brooklyn Nets with James Harden, Durant, and Kyrie. Harden was never playing, and then Kyrie, they never really worked out. You had the Lakers with Dwight Howard, Kobe, and Nash, and then Nash was hurt, and then Dwight was hurt. It's hard. I like the Suns. I think they can make the conference finals. I don't know. There's not enough balls to go around when you got Bradley Beal, Booker, and Durant, who are both shooters.
Well, it'll be interesting to see for sure. Season's just getting started. We'll see how.
Shout out to Bama boy. Brandon Miller has been slamming. He is him. He
has looked impressive. He really has. He has been slamming those things. Making men look like boys out there. But to transition, talk a little bit about Bama, who did not play college football, at least this past weekend. They did lose earlier in an exhibition game to Wake Forest. But not much to talk about with college basketball until we get to the actual start of the season. But college football was very busy this weekend, not as busy as usual. A lot of teams were on bye, including Alabama, as just mentioned. But I was at the one and only world's largest outdoor cocktail party. That's always been a mouthful to me. I always thought that they should try to make it a little bit shorter. That's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
Georgia and Florida, and look, I'm going to take this hat off real quickly.
I don't know what he's doing, guys. Oh, he's
I'm putting this hat on in solidarity.
Oh, man.
And solidarity. Not quite.
In 2008, you would have slapped yourself.
Oh my goodness. I'm wearing this in solidarity of the poor Florida Gators. Because
did you get that at the game the other day?
Yes.
It looks good. It looks good.
It's been a rough 15 years for the Florida Gator fans when it comes to football. It reminds me a lot of the Alabama days prior to Nick Saban. The coaches between Gene Stallings and Nick Saban, Mike Shula, Mike DeBose, Mike Price, just a series of mediocrity, and that's what it feels like in Gainesville when it comes to football.
Yeah.
And it always seems like they're so close, yet they're just missing like the big thing. And we've talked about it before. I thought the biggest mistake that Florida made in a long time was firing Dan Mullen after the 2021 season. I mean,
I agree.
What a mistake. I get it. You want to compete with Georgia. That's a tough task. It's going to be tough for anybody. And he was doing a really good job, I think. Made it to the SEC championship the year before. Kept it really close with one of the greatest Alabama teams of all time. Tough times in Gainesville for the Florida Gators. They go out. They score a touchdown early, looking like
I thought it
might
might be a game. I thought it was going to be a game.
Same here. And Gator fans were excited. Georgia was kind of like, "Oh my God, what in the world just happened? How did this happen?" And it kind of looked like a typical Georgia game this year, a slow start, but they got that slow start. They ramped it up really quick, and Georgia went on a 36-0 run. And it was just a throttling by the Bulldogs. Very impressive look. I still don't know if I want to consider them the number one team in the country, but they're pretty close to it.
All right, so my thoughts on it, the whole Dan Mullen thing, I don't know if you saw this. I loved it. So Dan Mullen predicted Florida to lose to beat Georgia. To win. Did you see what Kirby Smart said?
He said he couldn't recruit.
Said he couldn't recruit, huh? Is that what you said? I was like, little bit of chatter, still hate between those two.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. I think Florida firing Dan Mullen. I'm a big believer. If you're going to fire a coach on a Monday, by God, you better have your coach ready on Wednesday. You know who you're going after. And it's no offense to Billy Napier. I think Billy Napier, what he's doing at Florida, it's his second season. It's not bad. But you took over a program 2 years prior before you taking the job. They was in the SEC championship game. I mean, standards are high. I don't think it's his fault. They shouldn't have got a non-Power 5 coach for the position they wanted. They should have went after, and it was obvious he was looking, but they should have went after Brian Kelly, someone like that.
You got to go after the big boys if you're wanting to compete with the big boys. And Billy Napier is a good coach, but I mean, it's not like he was dominating in the Sun Belt. Like he was really good with ULL, but I mean, he was competing with App State, who was kind of killing him every year. So, I let me ask you this: when it comes to Billy Napier, I will give him a lot of credit. He is recruiting very well. He has the number 2 dual threat quarterback in the country right now for the class of 2024 coming in. That looks really good. How many years does Florida give him to work with his recruiting classes? To me, I think if he is not at least 8-4 next year with his recruiting classes, they might let him go. And I think that just because I think Florida's a little impatient.
Well, let me ask you, what is their what are you expecting? Are you expecting Billy Napier to win your national championship or win you 10 games?
I think that's what's expected at Florida. I think at least. Then I give
him 4 or 5 years.
Okay, I think. What do you think is an honest expectation for Florida fans? National championship, compete for SEC championship, 8-4 season.
They've won it. I mean, it all depends. In my opinion, it depends on the coach. Yes, I get Billy Napier as a Saban disciple. I understand that. But like when you have Urban Meyer as your head coach, you're expected to win it all. Then you have Billy Napier at ULL. You really thought you can win a national championship within 4 or 5 seasons? Because if you think that, then you're crazy. You're crazy. I mean, I just don't understand that. You got to let him build. If he's not remotely there in 5 years, if the man has not won 9+ games in 5 years, then yeah, get him out of there. But
if you're wanting a Saban disciple, why not go for Mario Cristobal?
Why not go for Lane Kiffin?
Get him before my. Good choice.
That's what I'm saying.
But to move on to, you kind of mentioned, to me when it comes to coaches, the best coaches kind of give off a vibe, I guess, of like very serious, like we're about the game. They don't play all this fun stuff, And Zach Arnett really gives me that vibe. He really does. He's serious. We're about the game. We want to win. But Mississippi State is in a really tough position right now. Auburn had, granted, it was Mississippi State. Auburn had what was probably the best game of their season. At least Peyton Thorne seemed to. What's your take on this game here?
Well, Mississippi State, I predicted, of course, nobody saw our predictions, but I said if Mississippi State had Will Rogers, I think it'll be a blowout. I think they will beat Auburn, but if they don't have him, I think their offense can't do nothing. And that was evident in this game. This Mississippi State, Will Rogers has been there 5 years. This is his last year. They have to get a quarterback. Like, if they do not get a quarterback, we saw what they're going to look like next year this week. Like, it's going to be rough. Peyton Thorne, he threw for over 200 yards. I mean, that was positive. I mean, I said if Auburn wants to make a bowl game, they have to win this game. This is a must-win game. This is a must-win game for Auburn.
Yeah, no, it really is.
I think the defense looked really good. I've been saying all year. I mean, I feel like I'm the biggest Auburn supporter when it comes to their defense than anybody. I love their defense. I think they have one of the top defenses in the SEC. It's just the offense is dreadful.
Yeah, and for a Lane Kiffin coach team, it's really quite odd to see an offense that lackluster. And to your point, looking at their schedule now, that was a very pivotal win that they needed. Because look on their schedule now. What are they sitting at right now? 4-4. So
they're 4-4.
They need 2 wins to make a bowl. So guaranteed pretty much.
State, yep. You
got New Mexico State and Vandy. Those are your 2 wins, and then you'll probably beat Arkansas. Probably. That's a
7-5 season. That's not bad at all.
Not terrible.
First year.
Yeah. So
after what Brian Harsin did, no, that is you deserve one coach of the year.
And if you're Alabama, look out, because if you get a rolling Auburn team who beats a Vandy, then beats an Arkansas on the road, gets a big win against New Mexico State, then you got the Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Alabama should be a huge favorite, but some weird things happen there, man. They really do. But yeah, I agree. Mississippi State, it's going to be an uphill battle for them. We knew the expectations would be low with them after Mike Leach passed, but it's tough times.
I don't understand, though, and I'll say this. I never really understood it, and I didn't know they did this until they played Alabama because it was so early in the season. I don't understand why Mississippi State threw out the playbook and brought in a whole new playbook on offense, because I think their offense is terrible now. You couldn't wait to do that next year? I mean, Rodgers is built for the air raid offense. Why would you take that away? Well, I mean, you never knew if Mississippi State could put up 3 points or they could put up 40 points. That was the beauty of a Mike Leach offense. You never knew who was going to throw.
I don't know. I really don't. Like I said earlier, I do think that Zach Arnett can be a good coach, but that it'll have to be a long transition period for him to get anything going in the SEC West, which will not really exist, next season.
Right now. I just don't see Zach Arnett lasting in Mississippi State. I'm not saying he's going to get fired. I wouldn't be shocked if he got fired, but I don't think he'll last.
No, I do think that he's probably a transitionary coach. Like, who else are we really going to get? Kind of thing. Okay, Zach, we like you. We'll give you the job, but you're on a short leash kind of thing. This
reminds me of when Ole Miss had that coach before Lane Kiffin. What's his name? Big old line coach.
Oh, the dude who was at Georgia.
Ned.
I forgot his name. Where is he? He went to Georgia as like a defensive line coach or something.
But you know what I'm talking about? It just reminds me of that. Kind of like, hey, just get us through this time. Like, we know we're not going to be good. It's like no waving the. Now, I'll tell you a coach I think that might go to Mississippi State. He's not coaching nowhere right now. He used to be the coach of an Alabama team. I think Bill Clark could still possibly take the Mississippi State job. He was offered
Where's he at right now? Just sitting at home?
Just sitting at home.
The guy who you're thinking about is Matt Luke.
Matt Luke, that's the name, Matt Luke.
Yeah, and he was very much a transitionary coach. But yeah, Bill Clark. I mean, he turned UAB into a powerhouse.
And it's evident now what he can do. I mean, look at Trent Dilfer. He's running to the ground.
Yeah. Well, to move on, let's switch conferences just a little bit. Big game, what we thought would be a big game in the Pac-12. Oregon and Utah. This was just utter domination by the Ducks.
I mean, but let me ask you, because if Oregon and Washington play again, or if they play that game over again, do you think Oregon would beat them? I think they'd beat them 9 out of 10 times. This Oregon team's good.
Yes, I think if Oregon wins that game, we're talking about them being the number 1 team in the country. When you watch them play, they are dominant. That was by far just the worst game of the season.
They missed a kick to go into overtime, and I feel like we don't really talk about that. It's not that they couldn't convert; they just missed a kick.
Yeah, And now I think if Oregon and Washington play again, and they play in Autzen Stadium, or they play on a neutral field, or they play in Washington, and Oregon doesn't go for all the fourth down plays that they went for and just plays a little bit of a smarter game, they win it almost every single time. I think I was really high on Washington, a few weeks ago. I thought this could be the number 1 team in the country. And they've looked like crap the past couple of weeks. They have had struggle after struggle.
Ever since Oregon.
They have sleptwalked the past couple of weeks. But I mean, and we gave Utah our flowers this past episode, say kind of apologizing after their performance against USC, and now that one's not looking great with how USC played. So the Pac-12, I think, is what looked like the most
starting to unravel.
They're starting to shoot each other now, and which if you're a 1-loss team in the top 10 right now, like in Alabama or in Texas. That's what you hope for. It's really what you hope for. Well,
let me ask you, who's a better quarterback? In your opinion, you have, I don't know, let's say the 10th pick, because obviously you're going to pick Caleb Williams and Drake May. Let's say you have the 10th pick, you need a quarterback. You picking Bo Nix or you picking Michael Penix?
Oh, man, that's tough. I think Michael Penix is probably a more talented quarterback. I think Bo Nix is really... I think he's found himself at Oregon. I think he really works in that system. I would probably take Michael Penix.
I'd probably go Penix. I'm glad to see Bo Nix succeeding. I just don't understand why he could never do it. I mean, it's funny though. Lanning was Lanning not at Auburn? Bo Nix's freshman year or the OC?
I'm not sure.
Somebody was there his freshman year, and now they're at Oregon, and. It was during Bo Nix's freshman year, and it's evident.
So Lanning was never at Auburn. He was at Georgia by the time Bo Nix was there as a freshman. But I do believe you're right. I think there is somebody who kind of helped recruit him to Oregon. Now, a team that I was pretty high on a couple weeks ago, and the whole country, I think, was higher on them. The Duke Blue Devils. If we're talking about quarterbacks, Riley Leonard.
Be overrated.
Is he there? You think he's overrated? I think, with how Duke has performed the past couple weeks, I think he's pretty dang good.
See, last week, I want to say he only threw for 100-something yards. It's just, I think his hype started off really high. First week,
he's been out.
Really What'd you say? He's been out. I know he's been out. It's just, it started off really high. You beat Clemson. Nobody knows how bad Clemson is.
Yeah.
And I feel like really since that Clemson win, you really haven't heard much about Riley Leonard. This is such a draft-heavy class of quarterbacks. I just don't see him being a good. If I'm Riley Leonard, I'm staying a year. But I think he's a little bit overhyped. I wouldn't put him up there with the Bo Nix, the Michael Penix, the Caleb Williams, and I wouldn't put him up there with Shedeur Sanders. I think Shadeur's good. I just wouldn't put him up there. Do I think he's I think he's like a round 4 quarterback. I don't think he's terrible. I'm not saying he's terrible. I would much rather have him than what's his name at Milrow. Much rather have him at quarterback. I just don't think he's. I mean, it's 23-0 at Louisville. I mean, I just don't know. That was a tough one to watch.
Well, let's give some credit to the winning team who didn't let Duke score at all. And a team that has just been quiet all season. Nobody's talking about Louisville. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now. They got Virginia Tech. That's a win. Virginia, that's a win. Miami, that one's going to be a little bit more tough. That's in Miami. And then Kentucky, that one will be tough. But, I mean, we very well could be looking at two undefeated teams, FSU and Louisville, in the ACC championship.
Louisville has one loss.
Louisville does have one loss. You're right. You're right. Who did Louisville lose to earlier in the season?
Pitt.
Yeah, of course it's Pitt.
Murdered.
Yeah, you're right. So you're right. So, but it'll probably end up being Louisville and FSU in the ACC championship. Which
let me ask you: Can you throw Louisville into the one loss team?
No
conversation. I don't think so.
No,
either, but
and it's only because of their name, and that's sad to say. But you'll never see a team who was very recently a Group of 5 team, compete in the college football playoff when you're competing with Alabama, Oregon, Texas,
Yeah.
Unless they just blow everybody out the rest of the way, including Florida State, I see no shot for them. I see their bowl game.
No, you're right. I don't know. I'm like you. It's sad to see Duke. I've always liked Duke. He had Daniel Radcliffe or whatever his name is. What's the dude's name? You see that?
Duke or Hogwarts. I mean, they're basically the same, right?
Same thing. I mean, what's the dude's name? He was Eli Manning's OC at Ole Miss.
Oh God, that's a throwback there.
He was the head coach of Duke forever. What's his name? Daniel is. What's his name?
I'm gonna let you look that up while I grab a Gatorade.
All right. He's gonna go. What flavor? Let's see. Let's make a bet. Everybody, what flavor he gets? I'm gonna go a lemon lime. Put in the chat what you think he's gonna get. David Cutcliffe. What flavor did you get? We made a bet. I made a bet that you had a lemon lime.
I'm usually a lemon lime guy, but I've been on an orange grind recently.
See, my brother likes orange. It's Daniel Cutcliffe, not Daniel Radcliffe.
David Cutcliffe, yes.
It's just kind of the same person.
I can see where that leads to some confusion. Can you imagine big old David Cutcliffe in a Harry Potter uniform?
That could be.
I'll let you lead us off into the next game
the next one,
because this is the game of the weekend here that nobody saw.
This one was exciting, and I don't know how you don't give him Coach of the Year. You got Kansas 38 to Oklahoma 33. I've been saying all the time Brandon Venables is not a good coach. I was starting to buy into it a little bit, and I'm glad this was a slap to the face of reality. I don't believe in Oklahoma. I think they're officially – I know they're a one-loss team. I think they're officially out of the playoff run. I just don't see them making it because Texas is going to play them again, then Texas is going to beat them. This was actually – you didn't say on Friday, but I think this was me and J-Dub's upset of the week. We said Kansas was going to beat Oklahoma. Playing them at Kansas, that was going to be tough. Kansas, Lance Leopold. If I'm anybody looking for a head coach – if I'm Michigan State, I don't know who else is going to be looking. Maybe South Carolina.
Will be maybe in Arkansas. There will be an SEC job opening
I don't know why you're not calling Lance Leopold. I mean, Lance Leopold, he has turned this Kansas team. I think he's only been there 2 years.
Yeah.
And you see what they're doing. I mean, oh my God.
I mean, they were for years the joke of the Power Five. I mean. And it was always weird. Kansas would always pull a win out of their butt against Texas for whatever reason. But for years they were the joke of the Power Five. And Lance Leipold comes in from Buffalo, and really, to your point, yes, he has turned that place around. And nobody's going to know it because the episode did not come out. But yes, you and J-Dub did put the Sooners on upset alert this weekend, and sure enough, Kansas They did the thing.
Is Kansas a football school now? In the last 3 years,
No.
they beat both Texas and Oklahoma. Those are the two big dogs.
I think my thing with the whole, are you a football school? Are you a basketball school? Are you a whatever school? I don't think it's determined by which team is doing better at the time. I think it's dependent on the history and who at the end of the day do the fans really care about? Who's talking more about what on the message boards? Yeah. I mean, but yes, I mean, right now, football is looking like a lot of fun there in Kansas for sure. And I want to ask you this, because they rushed the field, and then we had rushing the field is like if you're a college student and you're at a school who's not really known for football, and you get an opportunity to rush the field, take it for sure. I love the field rush. I really do. As an Alabama fan, we're not going to do it, and I kind of like that we don't do it because we're Alabama. But if you're at a school like Kansas, rush the field if you beat Oklahoma. But you're right. I want to get your take. What is the criteria for or is there a criteria for when it is acceptable to rush the field?
Okay, I'll give an example when it's not. I think when Ole Miss rushed the field against LSU this year, I think that was a little bit premature. If my mind reminds me right, I think they were pretty close in rank. I mean, they beat LSU before. It ain't like it was a long. I didn't really understand that. But for instance, when A&M beat Alabama for the late field goal kick, I kind of think when it's a game winner like that, rush the field. But when it's a blowout, I wish last year when Vanderbilt beat Florida, they could have rushed the field, but it's Vandy.
Well, they did rush the field, but they all did it like Vanderbilt kids, and walked down the stairs, single file
line. It's
how more Vandy can you get?
I wish that would have happened. But I feel like if you are if you are not ranked, or if you're a lower ranking team and you beat, if you're not ranked and you beat a ranked team, rush the field. If you're 20 and below, or maybe 18 and below, and you beat like a top 5 team, rush the field. That's really it. I don't think you rush the field unless you're not ranked or you beat someone that's higher ranked and like significantly higher ranking. If you're 9 and they're 8, don't rush the field, in my opinion.
I do love the field rushing, but I agree. I think there's a little bit too much of it now. Like when Colorado rushed the field, when they beat like Colorado State, who was like a 20-point underdog. Yeah. Come on now. Come on. Like I get it. You're Colorado. You want to have some fun. I think we've got them on the list. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But let's go back to the Pac-12. Is USC the most overrated team in the country? Were they the most overrated team going into the season? I know what they are now.
I think it's so much crap. The AP, Tuesday the college football playoff comes out, and then AP kind of starts not mattering. AP poll came out today, and they still have USC. I mean, I don't know what else they have to do to show y'all they should not be in the top 25. I mean, those guys are terrible. I mean, how many times have they given up 40 points in a game?
Cal gave USC every chance to win that game, and they just did not want to take it up until the very end. I mean that's embarrassing. It's Cal. It is Cal. That's tough. I see a note here you have, and this is a big statement. Is this the worst defense under Lincoln Riley? I mean, including USC and Oklahoma? I mean, that's a bold statement because his defense has always sucked, but this one is just like, it's Cal.
In 4 games this year, they have given up 40+. 4 games. I mean, that is unheard of. And then the other games gave up 20, gave up 28, 10, 14, and gave up 28 to San Jose State.
Do you have their schedule pulled up?
I do, and they're going to lose the next 3 games. They play Washington at home, they play Oregon at Oregon, and then UCLA at home. They'll lose the next 3 games.
Yeah, so that would leave them a record with what, 7-5?
7-5.
7-5. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. Yeah. At best case 8-4. USC. We kind of talked about them like Florida, except USC has way more of a history than Florida. At what point does USC start talking about Lincoln Riley? And is this a mistake? Should we have gotten somebody else, or is this just at least better than Tom Herman and what they had going on before him? You know.
I don't think USC has a lot of expectations in the sense of where it's located. You know, being Los Angeles, they got so many other professional sports teams. I feel like USC falls so far back in the back burner. It's not funny.
I think you're right. I think with the Chargers and the Rams moving to Los Angeles, the amount of eyes on USC, which in the mid 2000s, everybody in California and Los Angeles, USC was the team. You had celebrities all over the sidelines, and now they're going to watch UCLA and Colorado. I think the attention just is not on USC like it used to be, and I think, to your point, probably because of the amount of pro teams that are there.
I mean, you got to think every sport, baseball, basketball, football, has 2 teams.
Yeah.
I've never understand why sport teams, you know, New York, Los Angeles, really just those 2, they have to have 2 separate teams.
It's a little unfair in my opinion. I get they're all bigger, but yeah, I mean, their stadium used to be a stadium. You watch their games late at night because it's over in California, filled, and UCLA's always kind of struggled to fill their stadium, but now USC is struggling to fill the stadium, and they're still pretty good. So we may be looking at USC like never returning to their glory, but that's a conversation for the
Big Ten. I'm gonna tell you though, this definitely is the most overhyped Lincoln Riley USC combined team of all time. Just any Lincoln Riley team, any USC team, and I guess I'm glad to see USC back. But if you remember back in the days before really Pete Carroll and after Pete Carroll was a good coach. I'm not discrediting that. But I feel like, they would always put USC in the top 5. USC is going to be amazing this year. And then at the end of every season, they find themselves either lowly ranked in the 20s or not ranked at all.
If this team did not have Caleb Williams, you're probably looking at a loss to Colorado. Arizona, they only beat Arizona by 2 points. You're looking at probably a loss here to Cal. And then going forward, the other losses. So I mean, this could have been a 6 and it still could be a no. They're not. They got more than 6 wins already. Could have been a 6-16. I don't know, man. I'm not big on USC. I agree. I don't think that they should be ranked, but they're a team that the college football loves. The playoff rankings, I would be shocked if they have USC in them.
I think they'll put USC in the top 25 playoff. Let me tell you why. They play Washington next, so they'll make it a 5 or whatever Washington's ranked.
Gotta hype
it up. I mean, with this past weekend, we only had 2 ranked games. You're about to see so many ranked games next week. It's not even funny. Either way, they're going to try to set that up. But next, let's get into and I got a little bit of a fun fact about this one. Yeah, Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, 38. North Carolina Tar Heels, 33 with the upset. It's weird. So Georgia Tech has only played 3 ranked teams this season. All been at the 17th spot. They are 2-1 against somebody that is ranked on the 17th spot. Only lost to Ole Miss. They beat, who was it? They beat Miami, who was at the 17th spot. They beat North Carolina, who was at the 17th spot. That
game was because of a blown coaching job by Mario Cristobal. But yes,
Cristobal won a lot of money on that game. You can't
Yeah, he
tell
did.
me.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
You cannot tell me somebody had money on that game. There's just no way that it makes no sense to do what he did. But
Right.
Georgia Tech, I mean, they've always been, they're going to win you 7 games a year, but you can never sleep on Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, they're always on upset alert. You can never sleep on the Yellow Jackets in that
No,
offense.
you're right. You're right. I really wish that Georgia Tech could kind of, maybe spend some more money in recruiting and stuff, and kind of because Georgia Tech used to be a huge rivalry, and it still is. But if that was a competitive rivalry, that'd be awesome. But yeah, North Carolina, I think probably some frauds. I saw some holes in that team kind of all season, and it finally fell apart last week against Virginia, of all teams. And then to go and lose against Georgia Tech, I think, is probably an implosion now. You could very easily lose to Duke, Clemson, and NC State. And then we look back in North Carolina's an 8-4, 7-5 team.
And you can't chalk. And I'm gonna tell you, and I love to say it. God, I love to say it. You got to chalk it up to the defense. And who's the defense coordinator for North Carolina? Auburn's own legendary buyer of Cam Newton, Gene Chislett. He is choking as North Carolina's defense coordinator, and possibly what I think is Mac Brown's last season. The man I just looked up is 72 years old. I think Drake May is going to be his last project. They don't have nobody else really kind of coming up. I think he's done after this.
Let me tell you about Mac Brown. Because Mac Brown coached at North Carolina before going to Texas and back to North Carolina. Will he be remembered? Well, he'll always be remembered more for Texas. But I wonder for a guy, because he's from North Carolina too, if I'm not mistaken. Will he be more in remembrance himself of his time at Texas or North Carolina, with him being a North Carolina boy? I always wonder that. Like Gene Stallings went and coached at Texas A&M, right? And he played it for Bear Bryant under Texas A&M. So he's an A&M and a Texas boy, lived in Texas after Alabama, but won a national championship at Alabama. I always wonder, in a case like that, who do you align yourself with, or you just go with both of them? I don't really know.
I'd probably say he lines himself up with North Carolina. I think Texas fans remember him the most, but I'd probably say he's like a North Carolina person.
Yeah, that's his home.
Kind of like Greg Maddux. He has all these teams. I kind of think Greg Maddux aligns himself with the Braves a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Braves and maybe the Cubs. But I think Mac Brown, if Mac Brown leaves, does that make possibly, if you have your Arkansas and South Carolina, does that make that probably the best job in the market?
I wouldn't. For right now, either that or maybe if Michigan State, if it wasn't the situation that they're in, I would probably say Michigan State. But due to all the stuff going on there, I probably would agree. Yeah, it probably is. But to stay in the ACC, Mr. Consistent, Florida State hammers Wake Forest. Not much to talk about in that game. And Wake Forest isn't anything special, but where are we at with FSU right now? Because I feel like we kind of.
I have them number one. Number one.
Okay.
I think they're the best team. You got to put Georgia in there. Georgia hasn't lost a game since Bama in 21 SEC championship, but I like this Florida State team a lot. This Florida State team,
I do too. I don't have them number one. I have them number 2 right now. I have Michigan number 1, Florida State 2, and then Georgia 3. But yeah, this Florida State team, man, is good. And the ACC, it's their conference to win it. If we look at their schedule right now, let's see who they got. They're sitting at 8-0. They've got the one and only Pitt. Don't sleep on Pitt. But yeah, that's probably a win. Miami's always a big one against Florida State, but that's in Tallahassee. Then you got the Lions of North Alabama, and then Florida. So I think this is probably a straight, narrow road to the playoff if you're Florida State.
I'm about to say, I mean, they're probably going to line up with the North Carolina ACC, and I think they can beat North Carolina or Miami,
Mm-hmm.
whoever they got to play. I got Florida State. Who did Pitt lose to this week? They got blown out this week. Who was it? Was it Michigan?
Let's see. Well, Pitt is not good. Pitt's
Pitt's
they're
not good
2-6
this
right
year.
now. They got destroyed by Notre Dame.
That's right. That's who it was. Notre Dame. Notre Dame's getting better, but yeah, I got Florida. I think Florida State is improving so much. It's crazy. Well, let's move into this next game. The game that I think is going to, they're probably going to win the Big 12. Texas 35, BYU 6. I was really wrong about this game.
I was too.
I had Texas winning, but I thought that it'd be a close one. I would have been shocked if BYU won. But they did it all without Quentin Ewers. Texas might. I'm not saying they're for real, but they're good. Like, that's an impressive win, 35-6, without your star quarterback. And
there was some talk about who would replace Quinn Ewers. Would it be Malik Murphy, their backup, their big old dude? He is massive. Or would it be Arch Manning, which would have been really interesting to see? But they decided to go with Murphy, who many people have said is actually. He kind of looks like a runner, but he's actually supposedly a very good pocket passer. Destroy BYU, a good BYU team. I think Texas was caught on a bad day against Oklahoma, and I think if they play again in the Big 12 championship, which they probably will, I think it's Texas's game all day long. And we'll talk a little bit more about one-loss teams and who you put in the playoff over one another. But yeah, big showing by Texas for sure.
That was a big showing. Next game, let's go over Washington 42 and Stanford 33. Maybe Washington's hype is like we've talked about in the past on this episode. Maybe Washington's hype's not all that good.
Yeah, I mean they've kind of sleptwalked against two bad teams the past couple weeks. I mean, as we talked about earlier, after the Oregon game, they have not looked like they did the previous few weeks. So I think, they could drop something here soon, and let me look and see who they got, coming up soon.
They got USC next. Next.
So let's see. All right, the Huskies, they're currently sitting at 8-0. USC. Utah, that's at home. That could be a tough one. Oregon State, a team. This is a team. Oregon State. People are sleeping on those Beavers. And then Washington State. That's always a big one. That's in Washington.
Oregon lost this way. Who did Oregon lose to? Oregon State lost to
Oregon State.
Arizona.
Yeah. They're 6-2 right now. They lost to Arizona 27-24. But, I mean, Oregon State has shown that they can win some big games. Absolutely.
And I don't want to get on the train because I've used them. I wouldn't be shocked if USC can beat Washington because I don't know if Washington can stay in a shootout with USC.
Yeah.
USC has no defense. I am not trying to say that they're going to stop Washington's offense. It's just
Washington doesn't have much one.
That's what I'm saying. Who's the better quarterback, Penix or Caleb Williams? And I'm taking Caleb Williams.
And you might be running into a game where USC is like everybody's writing us off. They don't think we can win this game. And they go out there and prove everybody wrong. So I think Washington probably does drop a game at some point. To who, I really don't know. But to transition to another Pac, we've been talking a lot about the Pac-12 today. They had a lot of games.
They did.
UCLA 28, Colorado 16. I watched a little bit of this game. It was late at night. It was kind of boring. Travis Hunter, I still think is probably the best defensive player in the country. I mean, he's just incredible.
He's just the best. If he was playing the full season, I mean, I feel like he would have been in the Heisman talk.
Absolutely.
A little bit.
Absolutely. But, it just comes down to, with Colorado, I think it just comes down to talent discrepancy. I mean, Dion has done a really good job going out into the portal, getting a lot of great players. I don't really agree much with his recruiting tactics of I'm not going to recruit any high schools. I'm only going to get transfer guys. That's a topic for another day, though. But This was just UCLA being more talented. Just a better team than
UCLA is a
Colorado.
very slept-on Pac-12 team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to
Chip
kind of
Kelly
go
knows
off
what
your
he's doing.
point, but to go off your point about the whole high, I get it right now because he brought up a point, and it's because he was on the podcast and he said the reason why you go after these transfer kids are these universities, and a lot of he's right. A lot of universities only give these coaches 2 or 3 years a chance to win. So what are you going to get a kid that's played 2 or 3 years of college ball and you know what's wrong with him, so you know what you can try to fix, or do you want to get an 18-year-old that you really don't know what he's like?
No, I
I
agree.
kind of get it. And you bring up the question, not you, but we bring up the question: is the Colorado hype dead now? I think it's completely dead, and I hate it. And I'm not saying this because I'm a Dion fan. I don't think it was his fault. He got everybody. That's first 4 weeks. It was Colorado brought up in everything. He beat a TCU team that's lost 4 games this year, but they was the first game of the year back when everybody was like, oh my gosh, you beat TCU. They beat a Nebraska team, and they beat Colorado State, started off 3-0. I mean, I don't know who would have predicted that. I mean, all season we've been saying Colorado's only going to win 4 games, and right now they've only won 4 games. But I feel like we're saying, well, he was just too hyped about this team. It was more the media kind of gave him all. He didn't really do that. I mean, he'd say stuff but it's really the media just kind of hyping him up a little bit, turning people against him.
Yeah. I mean, it made, I think, some of the players a little cocky, and then it made opposing teams want to beat them just that much more. I think the media did them dirty. I still think they would probably be setting it forward for it either way, if I'm being real. But
I agree.
I agree. I do think that the Colorado hype is dead now. I think we'll hear far less about Dion and Colorado going forward. Which, if you're Deion Sanders, I know people might be annoyed with Dion, and I understand why. But you also have to remember, Deion's always been like this. He's always been like this, and that I just don't know that can work in the SWAC, but I don't know how well that's going to work in the Power 5 of FBS. When the more you talk, the more people are just going to want to beat you, and the talent is getting closer and closer to each other. I think Dion probably does need to take a step back, shut his mouth a little bit more, and then the media will probably lay off a little bit more, and then just go out there and win ball games.
And my thing with that whole Dion, talking, I feel like he gets a lot of, little bit more eyes on him than a Rutgers just because he's Dion. And I'm going to say this, though. Those first 3 weeks of watching Colorado football, it might have been the most hyped college football's ever been that early in the season.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, this is still the most – a 4-4 team is still the most watched team in the country. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's because of him.
And for the people that think he's going to stay at Colorado, that boy going to leave. As soon as his kids go to the NFL, he is out. He is going somewhere
Let me
else.
ask you this. It just hit my mind. How much do you want to bet? Let's say if Colorado ends the season with a 6-6 or worse record, how much do you want to bet? Because he still has won already just as much or more games than they've already won in the past 3 years, right? He's already done so much over the 4-4 season. But even if they only win 1 or 2 more, how much do you want to bet that he still will be nominated for Coach of the Year because he is Deion Sanders? Or be considered a candidate?
I don't see nothing wrong with being a candidate. If he wins it, okay, that might be something wrong. But the way Colorado is, I kind of see what you're saying. If it was Jim McElwain at Colorado, it wouldn't make no difference. But with it being Dion, no, I get what you're saying. But if he can go out and win 7 games, then yeah, let's give Colorado the glory. In my opinion, I think the Coach of the Year needs to be Dan Lanning at Oregon.
Absolutely.
Either Dan Lanning or I throw out there Lance Leopold. If they can go the season without losing any more games, and I'd probably go Dan Lanning's winning it. Give it to Jim Harbaugh. But
to move on a little bit, we'll move back south to a couple teams. The first one we'll talk about, he ain't winning Coach of the Year for sure, and that's Jimbo Fisher.
He needed to win this bad. If he didn't win it, I think they were going to leave him at home. Like, he was going to be left on the tarmac at Texas.
And this was we knew they would win this game. I thought they would win by probably a little bit more than 30-17. But it doesn't. To me, it really doesn't seem like Bobby Petrino is the answer.
He's not. He won't be there next year. I feel like. I just feel like he won't.
He'll be Arkansas Razorback again. Just you watch. Don't take that out of the realm of possibility. But yeah, 30-17, South Carolina 17. How short is the leash on Shane Beamer? Where are we at?
I feel like Shane Beamer is only still there because of who his dad was. I mean, his dad didn't coach at South Carolina, of course, but it's one of those kind of like Mike Shula. Mike Shula only got his leash a little bit extended just because. Well, what if he might be like his dad? You know what I mean? Like, what if it's one of those like, well, what's it going to hurt? But I'm a big. I've said it on this episode. If you're going to fire somebody, you better have your candidate ready. Do not, just like Auburn did it and Tennessee did it. Tennessee did it after they fired Butch Jones, and they went through 8 candidates and landed on Jeremy Pruitt. Auburn did the same thing when they fired Gus and brought in Brian Harsin. The guy they thought they was going to get didn't end up getting them, so they had to settle for the 6th and the 7th option. Yep. So South Carolina is going to fire Shane Beamer. Be ready because, I mean, let's be realistic. Does South Carolina really think they're going to win the East? Come on, man. No.
South Carolina.
What I'm saying. You're just wasting money at this point.
South Carolina has always been in the SEC East. At the bottom of the barrel, it's been South Carolina. It's been Vandy and South Carolina right above them, and then maybe Kentucky, and then you work your way up. What the expectations in Columbia, South Carolina, should be rock bottom, right? I mean, making a bowl game should be all you should be worried about if you're a South Carolina fan. But you went through that little period in like 2010 to like 2013 with Spurrier. With Steven Garcia.
Ryan Mallett, yeah.
He was from Arkansas. Marcus Lattimore. Yeah, I mean, you went through that period, and it was really good. But you're also forgetting it was Steve Spurrier, the old ball coach, and you think you can get back to that era, but in reality, that would be like the greatest season of all if you're South Carolina. You got to keep your expectations low. I do think that Shane Beamer still is not meeting those expectations. No. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I do think that, and imagine if it was, it would be a different situation, Alabama and Auburn, but they're definitely looking at Clemson and.
Well, they fired Will Muschamp, and I get it. Will Muschamp is not a good coach. He's a good coordinator. He's just not a good coach. But why? You bring in Shane Beamer. He's doing the same exact stuff Will Muschamp. I promise you, Will Muschamp would not have a 2-7 season.
Absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying.
Will Muschamp was meeting the expectation that should have been set by South Carolina.
I don't know what more you want. I don't know what more you're looking for at South Carolina. But Jimbo and them, I think you should keep Jimbo this year because the contract, I think it goes down from 70 to 60.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as, okay, you fire him. Are you going to get somebody that's going to make an impact immediately? Like, well, all you're doing is spending money. Texas is already dominating. You're not beating them. So just save your money for right now. Save your money. I don't know. And I'll tell you, he's got Bobby Petrino, but Bobby Petrino's with the wrong coach. He needs to be with Hugh Freeze. Can you imagine the duo they would have?
That would be if Auburn hired Bobby Petrino. A lot of respect for Auburn is already out the door already. Across the country, they would be in the trash can right now.
A lot of late night establishments would be rolling in some Auburn money.
Just go ahead. Hell, hire Bobby as OC, bring in Urban Meyer as DC, and they just have a time at the Sky Bar, you know?
And you know what? Put in their Orgeron at the D-line.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's get it going. Let's get
Take
it
a little
going.
off-season trip to Floribama. Have yourself a good old time, boys.
I'm telling you, like Coach O, his heaven's destined Florida, baby. He's going to Texas.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, Texas A&M, you know, and we talked a little bit about South Carolina and the expectation. Texas A&M, I mean, Jimbo is doing just as much or slightly less than what Kevin Sumlin was doing. And I think that is about where Texas – I think an 8-4 season is honestly what should be expected at Texas A&M. But I see where they're coming from. They want to compete for national championships because they got the money to do it, right? With NIL and the transfer.
And they're in Texas. Yeah.
And with Texas coming to the SEC, you don't want to be considered little brother with them being back in your conference now. So, but I do agree. I think A&M fans are going to riot if he's not gone by the end of the year, but I don't think his contract is just too big even for as much money as Texas A&M has.
No, I agree. Well, let's get into this next game. I got another game. It's not on the script. We'll talk about it after this Clemson game.
Okay.
Clemson, North Carolina State. North Carolina State 24, Clemson 17. Clemson, you know, you talked about your good coaches are the ones that usually they don't act stupid. They don't. Well, not act stupid. They're very melancholy to the media. They're not very talkative. You know, Kirby, Nick Saban, your Bill Belichick,
some seriousness, you know.
Even Urban Meyer. Dabo has always been pizza party this, you know, Dabo running on the field like an idiot.
Little old Clemson.
That TikTok, what's it called? Hickory Dickory Dock.
Hickory Dickory Dock. The mouse ran up the clock. Coach Sweeney's on TikTok or whatever he said.
Coach Sweeney's got the swag. And
Coach Sweeney got that drill. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's what I'm saying. Like Dabo is just, I don't know. It's not a. It's one they had their dynasty. We talked about in the last episode. Of course, nobody could hear it. Was the dynasty over? If they lose this game, they nailed the coffin. The coffin has been nailed. It's done. Dabo, the dynasty's over. Now you kind of have to ask yourself, how long does Dabo have left at Clemson? And you know, the week before he kind of blamed the quarterback. Now, Kay Napper, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, said that I don't know what he was doing. He should have handed the ball off. So now he's blaming players. Have you ever seen Nick Saban, Kirby, Urban, Brian Kelly, even that Coach O?
No, they put it on themselves. I've never really
seen a Power 5 coach ever blame a player ever in college. You know, they do it in NFL occasionally in NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But for a high standard like Dabo is supposed to be on, and for him to just sell his play out like that, I wouldn't want to play for him.
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's already struggling. You know, he's not going in the portal. He doesn't like the NIL stuff. I mean, but now he knows he has to adapt. And I was like, you've already shot yourself in the foot. You're going to have a tough time getting anybody now. But that leads into a question. And we talked about it, you know, how long we think Jimbo will last. But Jimbo and Dabo are two national championship winning coaches. Jimbo not at A&M, but at Florida State. Which national championship winning head coach, Jimbo Fisher or Dabo Swinney, gets fired or resigns first? To me, I probably think Jimbo, and I think it still would be probably after next season if they do, because I think Clemson, they're just little old Clemson. You know, I think they probably look at Dabo and it's like, well, he's done so much for us. I mean, he could stay here the rest of his career if he wanted to and go 6-6.
However long he wants to.
Yeah, but it could also be the case. It's like, well, they may look at him and be like, well, Dabo, you know, yeah, you've done a lot for us, but it's also like, you know, we're in a position now where we want to compete. You know, we want to go to the SEC or something, and you're kind of holding us back. So I don't know. Do you agree or disagree?
I think Jimbo will be the first one. I see Dabo, though, as the type to I think he pulls the Urban Meyer when he did at Ohio State and says he wants to spend time with his family and all that. I think Dabo's going to pull that game. He'll never get fired. Jimbo will get fired. Dabo won't get fired.
I can very much see
2 national championships at Clemson, or is it 3?
It's 2. No, it's 2. It's 2, and he lost to Alabama in 1. So he's made it multiple times. But
really, he was 2-1 against Alabama. Like, he was beating Bama every time. Like, besides that year,
we had the national championship. Yeah, so Alabama beat him in the national championship. Alabama lost twice to him in the national championship, and Alabama beat him in a playoff game.
Well, they have
2-2, but
they had Kelly Bryant. Yep,
Kelly Bryant. Yeah.
I forgot about that game. But I want to go. I think Dabo resigns. I don't know when Dabo resigns because I think it's going to be more of a shock. I feel like nobody talks about Clemson no more. So really, nobody's really paying attention to Dabo no more.
He's already in talks with ESPN for his college game day and college football final appearances.
I agree. I think Dabo will, unless he can start using transfer portal and NIL deal. Clemson is that place. They always before the NIL, they was the top 10 recruiting. I mean, top 5. Hell, sometimes they can do it. It's just they want it, and they got the money. I mean, they're obviously South Carolina. I mean, they got the money. They can get the portal. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand. So yes, I'm gonna go. Jimbo gets fired first, and then Dabo resigns.
All right. Well, what is your surprise game that we don't have listed here that you want to talk about?
I predicted it last week. We couldn't hear it.
I'm thinking over it.
It's for some of our viewers really don't care. South Alabama is such a South Alabama team. If you watch South Alabama, you realize when I say this. 1 week, a week ago on Tuesday night on the national spotlight, I'm surprised they won like they did. Won 55-3, looking amazing. They're going to play a Louisiana Lafayette ULL team, same record as them, and they got blown. And at home, mind you, got blown out.
Ain't it something? You go 10-3 the year before, and then now you're sitting in the middle of the season the year after, and you're 4-4.
This might affect
you beat Oklahoma State. Hey, Kane Womack will definitely stay there for a while, longer than Joey Jones and whatever the other guy was. But yeah, I mean, and we're talking to a very, very slim audience here.
Did you know Joey Jones though? He coached in Walker County.
Really? Where?
Door High School.
Really?
He coached there in the 90s, like 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah.
Oh, how about that? I did not know that. Well, I mean, South, they play on Thursday night this week against Troy. Troy that's a rivalry. Troy kind of dominates it. If Kane Womack can pull something out of his butt and beat Troy, I mean, that's kind of a saved season, I think.
I thought about going to that game, but then again, I have better things to do than watch South get blown out at a away stadium. I could care less. I mean, I got the Peanut Festival coming up. I can go to that.
You got the dot, baby. You got more fun stuff to do. Well, to kind of end on college football, and obviously we spend most of our shows talking about college football, but right now I do think that these one-loss teams and even still some of the undefeated teams will eventually start shooting each other down. But right now, we could have a really interesting situation when it comes to the conference champions, and multiple of them having one loss. So I want to ask you this. In the event that Alabama beats Georgia and we have a one-loss SEC champion Alabama, a one-loss Georgia whose only loss is that game, then you have let's say Texas wins beats Oklahoma and they're a one-loss team and they're the Big 12 champion. And then maybe you got a Pac-12 champion in probably Oregon And then you could even throw in there the loser of the Ohio State-Michigan game, if that's a close game. Out of those, and that's so many,
That's so many.
who are you giving the edge for that 4 spot?
I'm going to tell you, I think if in that situation you will have 2 SEC teams in the playoffs, I think you'll have Bama and Georgia.
Okay.
Because I think if Bama beats Georgia, I think Bama's guaranteed a spot, whether it being a win-loss. And then I give Georgia that 4 spot.
Okay.
I just think that because they're back-to-back national champs and their only loss being to Alabama and a neutral side, I think it goes Georgia, and you'll see Georgia and Bama playing the national. If this happens, I'm not saying Bama's going to beat Georgia in the championship, but you'll see Bama and Georgia in the national championship. I'm leaning towards a 2 SEC playoff, and you'll have Florida State and Ohio State. Whoever wins the Michigan Ohio State filling out the rest.
I think and to talk about Bama a little bit because they didn't play this week, and we'll talk more about them on the next episode, playing LSU coming up. But if you're an Alabama fan, same. If you're an Alabama fan, though, the best that you have to hope for really is to just win every game and just hope for the best, really. But I mean, if there's certain things that you have to hope for, you really have to hope that the game, Ohio State and Michigan, is a blowout. Whether Ohio State or Michigan blow each other out, so that negates any possibility of the loser getting into the playoff. You have to hope for Georgia to drop a regular season game, which most likely will not happen. Got to hope for Texas to drop a game.
You got to hope for Texas to drop a game and then beat Oklahoma
and
to
then
give them 2 losses.
Because I tell you, if Texas, let's say Texas wins out and routs Oklahoma for revenge, I think Texas is in. Because I think the playoff, and I think the media wants Texas in so bad. And I think people do not want Alabama in. But we'll see. It's definitely interesting. We kind of always have these conversations. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Out of all the 1-loss teams right now, who do you think is most likely to get a second loss? I'm going to go Alabama. I want to go Alabama. And it might be coming this week. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've been dreading this game really since about Ole Miss LSU game. And LSU didn't win that game, but my God, their offense looks good. And that Jaden Daniels, I think I've mentioned it before. I think he's the best. I think if he's on a different team, he's winning the Heisman.
The only thing is, God, as great as we talk about that offense, that's the worst LSU defense I've ever seen. I mean, you can go back. They had Bo Pelini as defensive coordinator years back, and they were awful. But this is far worse.
This is going to be a very high scoring Alabama.
Very high scoring game. I think Alabama, specifically the defense, played its best half last week against Tennessee. Well, now you got to play your best game. You got to play a full game. If Alabama can't play a full game, you're in more trouble than you were against Tennessee and against Ole Miss. But we'll see. You got a question. John always asks the question of the day. So
usually ask the question of the day.
We'll leave that up to you here. Other John, J-Dub.
So the question I have, and by the time this episode releases, you hear it. It'd be Monday, October 31st, Halloween, and I've always felt this way as a kid. Of course, I mean, kid, you like to dress up and all that, but really, is Halloween an overrated holiday? And let me give you some reasons why. I mean, it's just weird. I mean, it's always there. It feels like it's during the week, so you have to celebrate it a weekend before. It's just, I don't know. It's just overrated, in my opinion. I feel like it's because it's been a while. We don't have a lot of holidays from 4th of July to Thanksgiving, so they have to throw in there a filler holiday. You have your Labor Days and about. I think Halloween is very overrated. I've always felt that way. I mean,
I think Halloween. Do you say Halloween or Halloween? I used to say Halloween, but now I say Halloween. I like Halloween.
Halloween.
I like Halloween. I don't know that. I liked Halloween a lot when I was a kid because my birthday is a few days before. Like Halloween as a kid is like probably the best holiday aside from Christmas. You know, you go out at night, you're dressing up, trick or treating, getting high off of sugar. I mean, it's a fun time when you're a kid. But tell me if you agree with me on this though. I feel like on Halloween, I don't see nearly as many trick or treaters as I used to. Like if I go in a neighborhood on Halloween, I don't know if it's
Get that dog.
Freaking dog. I don't know if it's just like the way the parenting is now or something or what. I feel like there's way less trick or treaters, but Halloween, yeah, it is always seemingly on a weeknight, like on a dang Wednesday or something. I wish Halloween would be kind of like Thanksgiving. You know how it's always like the last Thursday or whatever in November. Why don't they just make it like the last Friday or Saturday in October? You know.
I'll tell you another thing. You see always, and this weekend especially, you've seen people. This is probably going to be used for a TikTok clip. It's very controversial. I don't understand adults liking Halloween. I think that's a little weird in my opinion. Like going all out for it. Like I understand, guys, if your girlfriend's doing it and they make you do it, that's understandable. But if it's just like a single guy and like he's fully dressed up for, a girl. Still, I think that's a little weird. If you're not doing a couples thing, I think that's weird.
I agree. I think it can be fun in college, but I mean, like I'm 26 years old now.
Out of college, yeah, that is the weirdest thing in the world to me.
I think, and if you're an adult and you're trick or treating, come on.
Oh, you need to be on the. You need to be on the list, buddy. You need to be on the list.
Yeah, I'm saying. I remember I stopped trick-or-treating probably when I was like 13 or 14, and I would stay home while my little brother went out and with my parents and got candy. And so I passed out the candy as like a high schooler. And I remember like old like smoker moms come, "Hey, go wait, can I get some candy?" I'll give you like a Tootsie Pop. Like, come on now. A Tootsie Roll or something.
When I stopped, so I have a younger brother, everybody. It's not as younger, like our age difference, 18 months. So when I stopped Halloween, it was like a year before he stopped. Or like maybe 2 years before he stopped. And I used to tell him, I said at home, I said, "Hey, go around and give me some candy." So he would go to the house and say, "Hey, my brother's sick at home. Can you give me some extra candy for him?" So I was still technically trick-or-treating. I was like Zoom. It was like Zoom. I did it from home.
You like that South Park episode? You got the iPad on the little stroller.
What do you dress up as usually for Halloween, Sam?
I always did something different. I do remember dressing up, and we've talked about it on one of the episodes. Like my favorite, like Halloween or horror themed movie franchise is Scream. I dressed up as Scream, and that's a very popular Halloween costume. I dressed up as Scream a number of times, and one year I got the mask, and it had a little pump in it, and you could pump it up, and it blew up the blood in the mask. That was like my most memorable costume. But I think I dressed up as maybe a Power Ranger once, or maybe an old wizard or something.
I wasn't expecting to go from an old wizard to Scream the next year. What's Sam? I see you changing. Yeah, puberty. No, I was always either a Power Ranger and then something Star Wars, like Darth Vader, Stormtrooper.
Nerd.
It got really weird. It got really weird when I turned 18, but
Trick or treat.
Well, I did. I thought I was hilarious. One year, I did dress up. I had put a cereal box around me, and I put a knife through it, and I was like, "Serial killer."
I do think the low effort costumes are getting really popular.
Those are the best, in my opinion. Those are the best. But
I saw one today. A guy put a crosswalk signal on his chest with a little arrow button, and he just put walk.
Did you see the one of Randy Johnson and the bird?
I did see that. That was good. I like that.
That was a good one.
You're dressed up right now. Your football player. That's the best. That's the one. The costume that always I was like, you're wearing your little T-ball outfit that doesn't fit anymore. What do you mean you're a baseball player? Like, come on now.
I'm Freddie Freeman. He's number 5. You're number 17.
I remember watching that video of the kid trick-or-treating in Atlanta or something, and he's dressed as Freddie Freeman, and Freddie Freeman is in the neighborhood. Have you ever seen that video?
Yes.
And Freddie Freeman, you want to take a picture with me? And the kid's like, yeah. And the kid didn't know who the hell that is. He don't know this Freddie Freeman. He don't even know who Freddie Freeman is.
Mom, why does Andre Ethier want to take a picture of me?
Oh, man. Well, guys, I think that does it. It's pretty late at night here in Florida. But I think that does it. Good episode. I think next episode we may or may not have J-Dub back with us. We will see. But that does it for episode number 5 of Heads Up Play. Be looking out. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at headsup_play. And follow us on TikTok, heads.up.play. We got everything coming for you guys. We do appreciate it.
Yep. Y'all have a good one and have a good and safe Halloween. And get candy for your brothers at home that is sick. And remember, we don't give a piss about nothing but what?
The Tide. This. Heads Up Play.